Previously on Gears.
It is Gears, Balls Visual Radio, time for Daisy's Double D's.
There are my dreams and donations. I'm focusing on a golf day that is being held early next month for Anthony Murray Hoines. Anthony was a very keen golfer until the 14th of May 2011, when a terrible freak accident changed his handicap from a number to something called quadriplegia. Flying helicopters in the Middle East for a mining company, he was struck by the roof of a warehouse, which was blown off in a sandstorm. He suffered multiple fractures to the skull and ribs, but the most severe injury was to his spine. This has left him quadriplegic, paralyzed from the chest down. Luckily, he did not suffer any brain damage and is still his old self. However, he will no longer be able to play golf or fly helicopters. He will require 24-hour care for the rest of his life. We have the privilege of chatting to Anthony's dad, Dennis, today. Hi, Dennis. Welcome to Gears on Balls Visual Radio.
Good afternoon, and thanks for having us on the program.
Dennis, could you start off by telling us about Anthony's life before the accident and how he is today?
Well, Anthony was a St. Benedict's boy. He went to school at St. Benedict's in Bedford View, and always loved flying, and flew whenever he got a chance, in private aircraft and so on. And he just gravitated towards helicopters, and was trained by Buzz Bezadenhout, and soloed in very few hours, and went on to become what Buzz called a natural. And he became an instructor, and also flew for a vehicle recovery company, and had something like 3,500 flying hours when he was offered a job doing geographical surveys in Iran. And they took a helicopter from Lanseria right across Africa. Got stuck in Djibouti and a few places while they got clearances, but eventually got to Iran, and they spent almost a year there doing geological surveys, which necessitated flying low level in the helicopter and taking magnetometer readings of the ground below them. And he was a very active scout as a youngster, and went on to become a rover. He attended the Worldwide Jamboree for Scouts in South America, and was just a great aviator. And he and I flew in the President's Air Race and fixed-wing aircraft 3 times. So to be struck with the accident that occurred was absolutely devastating for him.
Oh. It sounds horrific. I mean, Dennis, a young man with everything going for him, most probably doing what he truly, truly loves, and something so unexpected. We understand physically, unfortunately, the situation is, but mentally it must have been a massive blow as well. Yeah,
the accident happened in May in 2011, and we had to get him out of Iran, which was very difficult because we needed a medevac jet, and we got the jet from Dubai to fly into Yats, which is in the southern part of Iran. They got him back to Dubai, and he spent 5-6 weeks in there, and then we had to fly into South Africa, and he was 5.5 months in ICU in Pretoria, and it was very, very difficult.
Yeah.
Nearly died excuse me, I've got a bit of a frog. He nearly died 3 times, but the staff at the Milmed Hospital were unbelievably fantastic. And they have a rehab unit there, and Anthony goes there twice a week. He also walks on a machine called a Locomat. And the doctors say that if you're paralyzed, part of your brain eventually stops functioning with the walking part of the brain. So this machine allows him to get weight on his legs and to walk using his own muscles. And we have some past fundraising called electronic stimulation machine, which is like a cycle, but there's no motor on it. And we put electrodes on the muscles on his legs and buttocks, and the machine is connected via the internet to Baltimore, where they monitor his progress. And they can adjust the machine, and the computer actually makes him cycle. So the muscles are functioning, the blood is pumping, the bone density is good, and the whole idea is to stay fit, because they say one day when the cure comes along, if your muscles aren't in shape, you ain't never going to walk anyway. So stay in shape, and that's the whole program he's on at the moment.
It's remarkable, but I assume there's a hefty cost involved as well.
Well, you see somebody in a wheelchair, and you've got no idea of what goes on behind it. It's like seeing a TV commercial. It's 30 seconds on the screen as the wheelchair goes past, but you don't realize that there's all that production taking on behind. There's the physiotherapy, there's a special diet, there's ongoing treatments. For example, a quadriplegic who's paralyzed has to be turned about every 2 hours at night. So you can imagine just that one thing, how it has to be treated. And, then the dressing and the feeding. And, Anthony's got a great sense of humor, but he wants his ear scratched or, or something done, and there's a huge cost to this, that behind the scenes. I mean, a wheelchair can cost you anything from 50 grand to 300,000 rand.
Sure.
And the reason we're looking to do this golf day is because sitting in a wheelchair all day really isn't good for your health. And they have now devised wheelchairs that allow the disabled person at the press of a button to stand up. And the chair is controlled by a motor, and the body weight is taken on the feet, which is very good for bone density. And as I said to Anthony, it also allows you to stand at the bar and buy you a beer. That's what we're looking for. We raised money at the last golf day, and that allowed us our houses on 3 levels. So we bought a special machine that's called a stair walker. The wheelchair attaches to it, and it means it walks up the stairs on a half track, much like a tank. And the money we'd collected previously as well went towards this machine from America that gets him cycling every day. There's a whole program which I'm sure I could bore you with if I went through it, but there's aquatherapy, there's physiotherapy, there's electronic stimulation, there's a locomat, all of these things to keep the disabled person in good shape. In the old days they used to just park them off in a wheelchair and leave them to their own devices. And like Christopher Reeve, who eventually got a pressure sore, which is known as a bed sore, which eventually caused his death. We're not going to let that happen.
Sure.
You're having this golf day next month. Could you tell us about it and how we can support it and the people listening to the show can support it?
Yes, that would be fantastic. Anthony was at the golf day last year, and it was a fantastic event for the golfers. We had lots of prizes. We had weekends away. There were bottles of booze. There was a big dinner afterwards, and we had lots of sponsorship. But given the tight economic situation we find ourselves in, it's not always easy to get sponsors. So we're really looking for people to sponsor holes with anything from 1,000 rand upwards to sponsor a hole, which means you can put up your signs and bunting and so on. And it's about 1,000 rand a hole. We're also looking for prizes, anything from bottles of booze, touches, hampers, anything that we can give to golfers as prizes to make it a fun day, which it really is. And I'm sure it's going to be a very successful day, and we hope the weather holds up.
Now, where can somebody find all these details, Dennis?
Okay, there is a website for Anthony, which is called the AMH Fund. That's the Alpha Mike Hotel, AMH Fund at gmail.com. Or if they wish, anybody can contact Enika. Her name is spelled I-N-E-K-E, Enika, on 083 270 1934. I'll give that number again, 083 270 1934.
Okay. I must say, one of our avid listeners on Balls and Gears every day is a guy by the name of Will Scott, who's also a quadriplegic, and he said it's so sad to hear about about Anthony's accident. Despite all the challenges, there is hope, though, and he says, I'm living proof. So a little bit of inspiration from a fellow person in a very similar position.
Yeah, that's fantastic. As someone who's not disabled, I am constantly staggered, amazed at the bravery of so many people who've suffered this terrible disability. And one has to go to the Muirhead Hospital in Pretoria Rehab to see just the cross-section of people who have been affected by this, from a young 8-year-old girl who fell out off a swing, to a girl who was boating and broke her neck, to a high-powered businessman worth billions who's a C5 quadriplegic.
Yeah.
And one never knows with a freak accident just how these things are going to strike at you. But the amazing thing is just how brave just about every one of these guys and ladies are. I take my hat off to them.
Yeah, incredible stuff. Okay, Dennis, we've got the email address. There isn't a website. You mentioned a website, but you didn't give us the name. Is it the amhfund.co.za?
That's correct.
Okay.
It's the AMH Fund on Facebook as well.
Yes, AMH Fund. Okay, on Facebook as well.
On Facebook, they'll get all the details. There's pictures of Anthony. There's lots of stories, and I can leave you with one last story. Anthony's got a great sense of humor, and he's always cracking jokes with the doctors and that. And one of them said, well, look, you're no longer a helicopter pilot. You can go on stage as a comedian. And Anthony, quick as a flash, said, yeah, but I'll never do stand-up.
Well, listen, send him all of our regards, and hopefully we'll be able to get some people to try and get involved with your charity drive and golf day.
Fantastic, and I really appreciate your support. And we'll do everything from our side to support you guys, which I think is a fantastic concept. Internet radio, I think, is really great.
Thank you.
We can even listen to you on the car these days with a BlackBerry. So well done, and good luck with the station.
Thank you very, very much.
Thanks, Dennis. Thanks so much for chatting to us.
Cheerio.
Bye.
All right, thanks very much. There we go. So it's all about Anthony. We'll post all of those details up via Twitter, via Facebook, and on our Balls page. But if you can, get involved, with some kind of donation in terms of cash for one of the holes, etc., etc. It's all going to a very, very worthy cause.
At the next intersection, turn on
Gears with Sasha Martinengo.
weekdays from 12 to 2 p.m. Central African Time.